Hi guys, welcome once again to another interesting tutorial. My name is OJ. Thank you so much for watching my video. You are welcome to my YouTube channel. Please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. It's free guys, and it helps you to see beautiful DIY that we create on this channel. So hit on the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any one of them. So today's video we are going to be recreating this beautiful gown. If you want to see how to recreate this dress, please stay tuned and don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy! So guys, I'm going to be starting with the front panel and I'll be coming down for my guideline. So this will serve as the shoulder line. Then I'm going to mark the neck width. For the front, the neck width and the back has to be the same, right? So I'm going to make use of 3.75 because you don't want it to be too shocking, just as seen on the picture, right? Then the neck depth, I'm going to make use of 3.5 inches. If you do with the regular 3 by 3, it's going to be a bit tight, and with the style that we have there, it's not like the regular roll collar style, right? So just come down from your regular neckline so that it does not too tight, it's not shoky at the neck area. So with this 3.75 by 3.5 inches, so I'm just going to connect it together. So this is what I have for the front. Then I'm going to mark on this guideline here, I'm going to mark the shoulder divided by 2 plus half inch to join it to for my sleeve, right? So here I have 7.75. I'm going to mark it here. Then from there I'm going to come down 1.25 for my, or I can make use of 1 inch for my slope. I'll come down 1 inch for my slope, then go up half inch to join the shoulder of the front and back together, right? Then from shoulder, from this guideline here, this is our shoulder line, right? So from this guideline here, I'm going to come down for my chest 9 inches, shoulder to chest is 9 inches, shoulder to bust is 10, shoulder to under bust is 14.25. If I'll mark it here, then the half length is 17 inches, which is what I have for the end of my paper here. So I'm just going to connect this line together. So this is our chest line, this is our bust line, this is the under bust line, and this is the waist line. Hope that is clear. So now I'll connect this shoulder line here to the chest. So that just form of a square, right? I'm just squaring this line here this way. Then I'll connect the neck width to my slope this way. So this will serve as the slope line. Then from this shoulder here, this neck width here, I'm going to go up half inch. I'll connect it to this half inch here. So this will serve as our seam allowance for the shoulders I've explained, right? So now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark the midpoint of my slope to my chest, right? Just mark the midpoint, measure it and mark the midpoint. From there, come in half inch, then connect. I'll mark the bust circumference divided by 4, which is 9.25. I'll mark it here this way. I'll come to the waist. The waist circumference divided by 4 is 7.75. I'll mark it here this way. The dart intake I'm going to make use of is 1.5, but I'm going to replace with 1 inch. I'll mark it here this way. So I'm just going to connect this. Hope you don't miss this point. The dart intake I'm going to make use of on this waist here is going to be 1.5, but I replace with 1 inch. So basically this is just our normal basic pattern, right? So if you are making the style without a bustier form, this is what you will do. But for me, I'm going to make use of a bustier form. So what I will do now is that on this waist here, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. I'll mark it here this way. I also have it on my bust, so I'll connect it from my bust straight to the waist. Then remember we've replaced 1 inch here for that intake, right? So I'm going to make use of 1.5, but you can replace back that 1.5. I want it a bit snatched at the waist area. That's why I'm replacing with just 1 inch. But if you want yours to come out, but if you don't want yours to be too tight, you can make use of. You can replace back the 1.5. Hope that is clear. So now I'm going to share that 1.5 in two places on both sides of this line here, right? That's 0.75 on both sides. Then at the under bust, I'm going to come in half of that, right? That's the 0.75 that I have here, exactly what I have here, but I'm going to go out 1.25. So total that intake on the bust, on the under bust area, we have 2 inches. Why the waist we have 1.5 inch difference. Hope that is clear. So how you can determine this is to calculate for your under bust. That's I've explained in other of my videos. You can go back to check other of my bustier video how to get your exact that intake at your bust and your under bust. For this, I make use of 2 inches here at the under bust. Then at the waist, I make use of 1.5 inches. Hope that is clear. So I'm just going to connect this line. So this is what I have. So I use a straight ruler for the down part, then use a curve ruler for this upper part. You can see the way I place my curve ruler, right? Then I'll come to this slope here. I'll mark the midpoint of this slope. Here I have 4 inches. So I'll mark the midpoint, which is 2 inches. Then I'll be connecting it to the dart apex at the bottom. At the side here, I'm going to come down 1.5 inches, or better still, I'm just going to mark the side seam allowance, right? So I will be adding my side seam allowance so that I can mark it straight from that. So my side seam allowance, I'm going to make use of 1.5. So I'll mark it at the chest area. I'll also mark it at the waist area. Then I'll connect it this way. So with this now, we have all our measurements included at the side, including the side seam, right? So at the block, this block that I have here, from the bust, I'm going to come down 1.5 inches. So this 1.5 inches I'm coming down is what is going to I'm going to use to shorten the back panel so that the zip will last, because your front panel and your back panel is not the same length. You have bust at your front, and that accommodates more of the length. Hope that is clear. So now I'm just going to connect this to my dart apex at the bust area. So this is what we have. So now I'm just going to close this up, but before closing it, I'm going to cut this through. It's not a must that you do this, but it's just a method that it usually helps your dresses to come out fitted and beautiful, especially at the bust area. So follow what I'm doing if you want yours to come out firm, just like you see on the picture. You can see how the dress is so beautiful and it's firm on the bust area, right? And whenever you do this method and you pad your bust, it comes out very beautiful. So what you do is that this line that we have here, I'm going to cut it out, like slash it open, then close my dart, then transfer whatever excess I have here to the side. So just watch what I want to do. So basically what I've done here is that I've transferred the excess that we have at the bust area. I've transferred it here. So now we now have opening here, right? So I'm just going to measure this opening here. I'll measure it here. I have, let's say, 2 inches, right? It's more of 2.1, but let's just say 2 inches. So that 2 inches divided by 4, right? We fold your whatever measurement you have here, just use your tape rule to do that. Fold it into 2, then half of that, fold it into 2 again. Whatever thing you have, that's what you are going to mark here. So for me, I have 2 inches into 4, that's like half inch, right? So I'll mark it here this way. This is the half inch. So this half inch here, I'm going to connect it to the dart apex at the bust area, right? Again, this is not a must. You can actually skip this, but I advise you to do it because it has a fitting on your bust padding. Hope that is clear. So this half inch that I've already marked here, I said I'm going to close it up, and for my shoulder to come out, my shoulder measurement to still come out equal, I'm just going to replace it here. Hope that is clear. Come out with the back, right? So I'll replace the half inch here. We've replaced it back. So this is our new armhole curve, right? So this is one we are making use of. So this first one is no longer needed, right? This first one that we have here is no longer needed. So this is the new one now that we are going to make use of. So I haven't done this. We are going to close this. So for us to close this, I'm going to open this up. By the time you open it up, you have a line here. So you cut that line through. So the excess we have here, we're transferring it back to this side here. So after opening this side here, I'll cover this. I'll close this up this way. If you have gum, you can use your gum to close it because this is closing permanently. So after closing this off, the excess that we have here before, we are transferring it back here. Remember the half inch, right, that we close now. This is the half inch here, right? So now the next thing I'm going to do is to continue for is a armo princess dart. So we are going to connect this to our princess dart, right? So I'm just going to measure what I have from my bust to my under bust, and what I have, the measurement from my bust line to my under bust, I have 4 inches or 4.25. So this 4.25, I'm going to remove 1 inch away from that, and that will give me 3.25. So that 3.25 is what I'm going to mark here. So that's where I'm going to connect my princess dart to. So I'll just place my curve ruler this way and connect it to that point there. So this is what we have. So the pattern is ready. Now I'm going to use this pattern to cut for my collar. So just watch the way I'm going to cut this. I'm just going to cut the neck. Then I'll close the side dart. I'm just going to use my gum because this is closing permanent too, right? So whatever excess you have at the side, we're already transferring it back to this dart, the waist area here, right? By the time you close this side, you have a little shortage here. Just blend it back from your under bust. Just blend it back to your chest area. Then I'll cut the side. Right, so now this is good for the side. We've already had our side seam allowance, and this is going to cut it on the fold, right, because this will be the center front. So but we are still going to come back to this panel after drafting for the back, especially this one, because this is where we are going to determine our collar. This is where we are going to get our collar from. So just stay tuned. So I will move over to the back panel. So I'll be using this for the back panel for my zip, and it's 1.5 inches. And this is our guideline, which is the shoulder line. So on this shoulder line, I'll mark the neck width the same way we use for the front. That's what we use for the back. So for here, I'm going to make use of 3.75. That's what we use for the front, right? Then I'll mark the shoulder divided by 2 the same way we use for the front, right? 7.75. I'll mark it here. Then shoulder to chest is 9 inches. Shoulder to bust is 10. Then the half length for the back is going to be 15.5. Remember, for the front we make use of 17 inches, and we use 1.5 inches for our side seam, for our side dart, right? So now we left with 15.5 because we remove 1.5 from that. Hope that is clear. So I'll make this a straight line. Then I'll square this line here the same way we do for the front as our armhole depth, right? Then shoulder, I'll come down 1 inch for our shoulder slope, then go up 1/2 inch for shoulder seam allowance, and I'll connect this to the neck width this way. Then on the neck width, I'll go up 1/2 inch, connect it this way. This is our shoulder seam allowance, right? So now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark the neck depth for the back. So the neck depth for the back, because of the collar roll at the back, is a bit deeper, right? So if you are the type that comfortable with that much deep at the back, you want your bra to show, or it depends on what you want to use and wear your dress. Sometimes you can even pack the bust in a way that you don't need bra. So in that way, you want it to be a bit deeper, that means with that style that is showing on the with the style, going by the style, you can come down as low as 10 inches. That's like going to your bust point, right? So you just measure from your shoulder to your bust, or even 1 inch below the bust, right? But for me, I don't want mine to be too deep. I don't want it to be as deep as what you are seeing on the picture. But you see the same thing. If you want it, this is where you can make that adjustment. If you want it to be deeper, you come down deeper. But don't make it come to your waist, because it's not up to the waist area, right? It's between the bust and the under bust. You can put it at the bust line, let's say like 10 inches. So for me, I don't want it to be as deep as that. So I'll make use of 7 inches. By the time I remove half inch to sew the neck area, I will left with, that means I'm coming down 7.5 inches. That's fine with me. So please do with what you are comfortable with. You can make use of 10, 9, depends on how low you want it. This is where to adjust that. So for me, I'm going to make use of 7 inches, which is here. Then for our back shaping at this waist here, remember my width of my zip is 1.5. So I'm going to come in half inch. That's to shaping the back so that the zip will relax. I will be connecting it to somewhere at the chest area here, right? So I'll connect it this way. So this is the half inch. I'm removing this. Then I'll remove it from the zip area here. Hope that is clear. So I'll be connecting it to this way. So we usually do this for our zip to relax. So in this way now, I've removed half inch away from the zip seam allowance, then I replace it from the bust. So the total here, I have 1.5 inches. That's for my zip width, right? So the extent of doing this is just to have a little curve at the back, because our back is not all that flat, right? So to follow the structure of your back so that your zip will relax. That's why we are doing this. So with this now, you have the back shaping. So now, wherever you want your depth of the back depth neckline to be, that is where the zip is going to stop. So let's say, for example, now my zip is stopping here because this is the 7 inches that I have here. If you come down that low, that means your zip is going to stop somewhere there. So in that place, I'm going to go out half inch, right? I'm just going to mark half inch. Then from there, I will make it connect. I'll use my ruler to connect this to that point. So I'm not using a straight ruler this way, right? I'm not using a straight ruler this way because the picture is not showing that it's a V. It's not like a straight V, right? It's a bit curved. So that's why I'm going to use my curve ruler this way. From the neck width to the neck depth for the back, that's what I'll use my curve ruler to connect it this way. Hope that is clear. So you see the way I connect it. So the extent of this half inch that we mark here is for the cape, right? That's the collar. So we are still going to come back for it, but let me just mark it here, half inch, right? We are still going to come back when we are marking for the collar. So this is the neck depth for the back. Hope that is clear. So now the dart at the waist here, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. I'll mark it here this way. Then I'll mark on both sides 0.75. That means the dart intake here is 1.5. But I'm going to replace with 1 inch, the same way we did for the front. Hope that is clear. So I will connect this to my chest. So I'm sewing a normal dart, right? I'm not going to do Amo Princess dart or anything. I'm going to sew a normal dart. So what it means is that I'm just indicating this line here. I'm not going to cut it through. What I will do when I'm cutting it on my fabric is to notch it. Then when I'm sewing it, I'll just know where, when I remove the pattern, I'll just know where to hold together and sew. Hope that is clear. So that's all for this. So now at the chest here, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. I will start down marking from this dart, from this zip seam allowance, right? So 9.25, I'll mark it here this way. The side seam allowance is 1.5. We'll replace back. Then I'll come to the waist. The waist circumference divided by 4 is 7.75, starting from the zip seam allowance, right? So I'll mark it this way. The dart intake is 1.5. I'm replacing with just 1 inch. I'll replace it this way. Then 1.5 inches for side seam. I'll mark this way. Then I'll connect this line. So because of the way it's a bit slant, so that means the waist is a bit bigger than the bust. So now because of the that, so I'm going to turn my curve ruler this way to use to block. Hope this is clear. So now I'll come to the chest. I'll come to I'll mark my armhole curve here, right? So I'll mark the midpoint from the slope to the chest. I'll mark the midpoint. This is 4 inches. So I have 8 inches. The midpoint is 4. So I'll come in half inch this way. Then I'll use a straight ruler to connect this. Then use a curve ruler to connect this. So this is for our armhole curve. Hope that is clear. So this is all we need for this pattern. So I'm just going to do a little bit of shaping here. So for this area not to be bulky, I want it to be relaxed. So I'm just going to remove a little dart here, right? So I'll be connecting this almost to the dirty paste. So I'll just make a line here this way. I'll go up half inch, then make it this way. So this line here, I'm going to cover it, right? So you can skip this too, but I don't want it to be caping at the back. That's bulgy at the back, this neck area here, because of the way it's curved. So that's why I'm removing a little inches away from here. This is width of half inch, right? So that's all. So this is for our back panel. So I'm going to cut this out. We have now. So now I'm going to close this off. So what I will do is that I'll be cutting this out. And I'll use this to close it this way. Again, you can skip this, but I just want to make sure that the neck is not giving me a puff at the back, right? So now these are the pattern. This is for the back and this is for the front. So I'll keep this aside. This is what I'm going to make use of. The armhole, we are going to make use of this shoulder of the front and the shoulder of the back. We are going to mix it together. So the armhole of our front to meet together, I have to turn it this way, right? So this is the armhole of the front, this is the armhole of the back. So for them to meet together, I have to turn this back upside down. Hope that is clear. So I'll place it together. So by the time you bring it together, let it be equal at the shoulder here. It has to be equal. So this is equal. And remember, we have half inch here, right? To sew our shoulder together. We are not going to have this half inch on our collar. So I'm going to fold that up. So this is it. Because I'm going to use this panel to cut on my fabric, I'm just going to pin it. I'm not going to glue it. I'm not using glue on it, so I'm just going to pin it down. So the essence of this is to have the neck, right? This is the front neck, enter into the back neck. So now I'm going to draft for the cape. So for the width of my cape, you can make use of your desired width. So for me, I'm going to make use of 3. So here I have 4 inches for my shoulder. So by the time I remove half inch to join it to my sleeve at the armhole here, half inch to turn the neck, I will left with 3 inches. The armhole here, I'm going to mark 3 inches. So at the shoulder here, I'm going to mark 3 inches from the neck. So this is our 3 inches. Then I'm going to maintain that 3 inches from the neck depth. I'll maintain the 3 inches this way. Remember this half inch that we marked here that time, right? The half inch that we came in that time. So I'll just make use of 1 inch. So I'll just blend it to 1 inch. So 3 inches. So this 1 inch, I'll place my tape rule this way. I'll mark it this way, 3 inches. So the collar is not for the style. The collar did not really extend to where the zip stop. So we are stopping it at somewhere at this 1 inch that will come out, right? So now we blend the 3 inches up this way. So what we are doing here, we are drafting the collar out, right? So for a roll collar, you can do this, cut this on a, but just get your width and cut it on a bias. That's the width of your neck, and cut it on a bias form to have it roll to the back. But with the style that you see on the picture, it is not really the roll collar method, right? There's a little bit different, and that difference is that this is a collar that stays, falls on the dress. So that's why I'm drafting it out on my pattern. So now you see that sharp edge, right? To achieve that sharp edge, this is where our collar is going to stop, right? So to achieve that sharp edge, from where the collar is going to stop, I'm going to measure down like 3.5 inches, right? For the style, our own falls at the waist because her depth for the back was a bit lower, but mine is not that low. So that's why mine is still falling somewhere at the bust or at the under bust, right? I like it this way. But if you want yours to be exactly as the picture is on the style, that means your neck depth for the back is going to come down low. And by the time you have the extension here to have that sharp edge, it's going to fall almost to your waist side. And mind you, this kind of style fits those who have bust that has big butts, right? Like big hips, right? So that everything will just come out, so that it will not come out what I ordered versus what I got. Hope that is clear. So just work with your body shape or your client's shape. Explain all of this to your client so that you will not say, oh, I want it exactly as it is on the picture, and you not get a different thing. This is what I want. I want it to fall, but the way to achieve that style is that you just come down a bit lower for your neck depth and have this extension lower, and it will fall as the style is. But for me, with my body shape, I don't want it to come down too low, right? So it's going to fall at my under bust at the back. No, there's no under bust at the back, but it's just that it's going to fall on that area. Hope that is clear. So this 3.5 that I came down, I'm going to connect with a straight ruler this way, connect it up this way. Then I'll connect this to the 1 inch that we came from the zip. Hope you are still following. So this is what we have. So this is how the collar is going to be. And you know, this is for the front. The front is going to be cut on a fold. So that means the collar is still extending like this to the other side of the zip. Hope that is clear. So I'm going to use my tracing wheel to trace this out on a fresh pattern. I'm going to put another pattern on the down at the down. Then I will trace it out this way, right? A fresh paper, and I'll put it under. So guys, I've already placed another paper under. You can see the paper, right? You can see the difference. This is the brown paper and this is newspaper, right? So I just place it under. So this line that we have here, I've used my tracing wheel to trace it out this way. So just place it this way and just give it a mark so that it reflects on the newspaper, right? So that's what, so we have the neck here. So I'm just going to cut it out. So now I've already cut out the neck area, right? So I'm going to remove my pins. Then I'll remove this. Then the I'll highlight the mark here. So with my tracing wheel, I'm seeing the mark. So I'm just going to highlight where I'm adding seam allowances. So I need 1/2 inch to cut to sew this part here. So this is our cape or collar. I'll be cutting this out now. Right. This will come this. So we are going to cut this part on the fold, right? and this is coming this way. So now let me cut this on my fabric. I'm going to cut this on a separate fabric depending on the color you are using. So I'm going to use this with cut this on African print, then I'll use this on a crepe, a duchess, whichever fabric you want to use. On my fabric, I'll add half-inch here, add half-inch here to join these two panels together. Every other places have been considered, just this place I will add, right? Then for this two, I'm just going to cut it exactly. Then I'll notch this area here. I'll cut it, and I will be uploading the sewing part soon. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the sewing class. Bye.